All right, good morning. We are back with another season 2 episode. I'm having a ton of fun with this arbitrary decision that I've made. I feel like it sounds more professional, so I dig that. Another season 2 episode. I'm stoked to be here with this guy. He's a former colleague and the guy that I trust right now to train my mom, which is saying something. When I hire trainers, I always think to myself, would I let them train my mom? And this is the guy that's actually doing it. So thank you for joining me. Good morning to you, Mr. Keegan Hucul.
Good morning, Logs. How's it going?
Yeah, man, really good. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt that says it all today. So there it is.
Amazing SNFC. I like it. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's season 2. We're going to kick it off with our little rapid fire magic minute here. So hopefully you've had some coffee, you're awake, you're ready to go. We'll see what we get into. Are you ready?
Yes.
Nice. All right. Who's your favorite athlete?
Derek Jeter.
What is the coolest back to school outfit you ever remember wearing?
I was pretty standard, I think. I didn't do, it's probably just gym shorts, gym shirt, runners. Nothing special.
Okay. What's your favorite brand of athletic wear?
Nike.
What is your favorite patio drink?
Gin and tonic. Little lime, little mint.
Classy. I like it. What is the coolest place you have ever traveled to?
Let's go Mykonos, Greece.
Ooh, nice. Okay. It's Friday night. You're super hungry. What's your go-to skip the dishes, take out, pick up kind of soul food?
I'll go burger, either takeout burger or else I'll just make a burger because homemade is, I'm starting to get pretty decent at it. Burger, nice. All the way.
What's your favorite movie?
Wow. Let's go with The Dark Knight, 2008.
Sick. And what's your favorite muscle group to train?
Legs.
Sweet. All right. Good. Nice. I'm not timing the magic minute. It's like however many questions I can come up with, but nice rapid fire on that one. Good job. So in terms of our conversation today, what I wanted to talk about was when you and I worked together, you were sort of fresh back from the U.S. after having been a varsity athlete in the U.S. So, I definitely took a shine to you already because we had that in common. But you had your, degree, you wanted to get into training clients. And I was like, hold the phone, man. You got to jump through this hoop of getting a PT certification. So I think I sent you home and you crushed an online cert really quickly and then came back and said, put me to work. And you were part of the grand opening team that I was lucky enough to head up in Victoria, which was like still to this day the coolest experience in my professional career. So that was pretty awesome. We had a ton of fun with that group. And then you rose to, you rose your level, you learned more things, you built your skill set, you've got a really easy natural rapport. So you did a really good job, finding a client base. And you sort of excelled. You showed yourself to be a leader, eventually earning, the assistant fitness manager role. And at that point, you start to do a little bit more around mentorship and educating, when we bring, someone new onto the team, you start helping out a little bit as a leader. So I was thinking about the fact that I sort of watched you go through that transition and grow your career and grow as a leader in that way. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think for a lot of people, the goal is I want to train people. I want to promote myself over time. I want to get better. Maybe I want to run my own gym one day. I want to sort of add some leadership and management skills over time. So I wanted to talk about that trajectory a little bit and sort of what you learned, what you experienced, what was challenging. We'll sort of talk about that idea a little bit. So let's just rewind a little bit. Tell me a little bit about how you ended up going from, little local athlete to the US and tell me a little bit about that experience in the sense of showing up far away from home and having to sort of find who you are and sort of find a name for yourself in your sport. Let's kick it off from there.
Yeah, so, the whole drive 27 hours down to drop me off in Kansas happened with the parents. And then basically from there was just a learning experience for I guess it would be 2 years in Southwest Kansas. So Seward County is where I played my my freshman and sophomore year. And the whole time it was learning. It was a lot of learning. You know, it wasn't about going in there and becoming a leader or becoming anything like that. For me, it was just about kind of honestly proving myself to myself, and just being the Canadian guy, one of two the first year, and then sophomore year, one of one. It was a lot of just you know, seeing what I could do and just kind of mixing in. Honestly, a little bit about how it went down was a lot of, the guys were nice, actually. You'd think that they'd be like making fun of the Canadians. You think they'd be all over the whole, you know, giving you a hard time, but a lot of it was educational in a sense. And they kind of were asking questions, and in a way, we as teammates kind of made each other better in that way. And with the skill set of, you know, being a left-handed pitcher, just being on scholarship, lefties are a little bit more sought after. So I had a bit of a bonus in that sense, but you know, those first 2 years were a big learning experience for sure. So.
Awesome. So then when we just look at being an athlete in general, I mean, outside of the experience with movement and training and sort of, I think when you rise to that level as an athlete, you absolutely earn a layer of confidence whenever you started as a kid, and how hard you work and how you progress as an athlete to get to that level. There's some well-earned confidence in there. And you know, one of the things that we say about what does it take to be a personal trainer, well, you got to have some confidence. So I think athletes make a sort of, it kind of makes sense to go from being an athlete to being a trainer. But you know, what else do you think was a benefit to you to go from not just being an athlete, but also being an athlete who traveled, right? You had to establish yourself in a brand new space. You had to, you know, learn, you had to, you know, all that stuff. What do you think works well, or what do you think was an asset then coming into being a personal trainer? What do you think served you well in terms of the lessons you learned as an athlete to be able to successfully build your business as a trainer?
Time management, huge. So I mean, right off the top of my head, I just think with you know, balance with school, baseball, working out 5 a.m. weights, with homework. There's, you know, in 6 classes, you have to be very structured and good with your time. You have to be on point. You know, early is on time. Or what is it? What is that quote again?
Early is on time. On time is late.
On time is late. Yeah. And so anyways, you just learn to really manage your time super effectively. And of course that transitions right into the training job really well, sticking to those 50-minute sessions or however long you do them. Another thing too is that you, in a sense, you compete with yourself and your teammates. So, you know, if you add a little bit of that competition aspect into things too, I think that's a huge part of comparatively, you know, athlete to trainer. Where you're trying to perform, hit your numbers every month, and do that kind of thing, and prove to yourself and to your team that you are there for a reason. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. There's certainly, I mean, athletes probably when you get to the level that you did, there's really got to be a desire and a drive to win, and you know, we hope that you want to win the right way. It's not like win at all costs by cheating and injuring people, but like work as hard as you possibly can and give your best effort every day so that you are prepared to take advantage of opportunities that allow you to win, right? So there's an element of that I think translates to personal training really, really well, in the sense of winning in this case could be any number of things. It could be building up a full-time schedule. It could be getting a certain number of people to engage in your group classes. It could be training more sessions than anybody else on your team. It could be, you know, getting certified and adding additional skills. It could be having your team as a whole meet the goals that's set, right? But when I look at it in relation to client management, when you hire me to do a job, let's say it's lose 20 pounds and make your knees feel stronger, I want to win at that. So what that does is keeps you sharp on being accountable to helping your client achieve the goal, right? So if I think there's a lot going for the transition from athlete to trainer. At the same time though, do you think, are there any liabilities? Is there anything being an athlete kind of blinds you to from the perspective of working with your average client population?
I was thinking about this, and I had a hard time thinking of liabilities. I think that sometimes people on your team, there's different levels of competing and different levels of wanting to win. And so maybe more so in the professional environment, that competition may not lend itself as well to the athletic side, or in comparison to the athletic side. When you're on a team of a sports team, everybody on that team wants to win. There's, you know, different levels of competing, but I think if you somebody, for, you know, I don't want to say, well, maybe hot-headed comes into the workplace environment, or, you know, maybe sometimes confidence can be taken as being a bit cocky, and some people in the workplace may not enjoy that too much. But no, I mean, I just think being an athlete really lends itself well to being a trainer, especially on, you know, you're performance-based, you're on a team, you're striving to win. I personally don't see it as a liability at all. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, and at the end of the day, your attitude goes a long way towards establishing what the reality is for you and how you help people. So I like that you don't see limitations. I think maybe what I wondered about is if you're a natural mover and you've always been fit and you have always had success in movement, I think maybe sometimes it can be a little bit hard to empathize with people that have not had that experience. Like
Right.
maybe they never exercised as a kid. Maybe they were not, maybe they don't really have that kinesthetic awareness, and it was hard for them to learn, you know, new sports or whatever. So they ended up feeling embarrassed and then didn't want to participate.
So they come into the job with a different level already, right off the hop, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think back to my own experience when I first was learning how to be a trainer, and I guess I always frame up these interviews sort of trying to speak to the gaps that I see for our students. But for example, if you're an athlete and you're a great mover, you might not know how you move so well, you just do. So
It'd be harder to
sometimes I
teach.
think maybe what's missing is having struggled, right? Sometimes athletes are sort of naturally awesome, and you have to work really hard to get to a certain level, but like
Right.
you didn't necessarily, like, you just hinge well. You didn't really have someone teach you how. So
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges for young trainers can sometimes be, how do I cue for somebody who isn't moving the way I want to? I remember being a young trainer and saying, okay, I want you to do this. Here's how you do it. You go. And then I would look at them and I was like, that's not what I showed you. That's not what I said. And then I
Right.
wouldn't really know what to say.
You're already so
It
good
took
at it.
me a while to build up the vocabulary to help someone learn how to move that just didn't already know how to. I don't know that it's a liability. It's just something where we might not quite have the same experience. We might have to figure out ways to dumb it down for people.
And of course, people learn in different ways too. You could have somebody who's an amazing athlete on one hand, who demonstrates exceptionally well and does all kinds of cool movements, but they have a harder time learning how to communicate and effectively present and cue and things, versus somebody who you know, hasn't had much sporting experience or, you know, team experience in their history, but then they get in, you know, they do NASM or BCPTI or something like that, and they start cueing and get it, and they're on point with their communication. And so, you know, it's just all about learning through the steps, first few months, first few years.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk sort of more on the teamwork side of things. There's lots of ways to be a trainer, but as we look at preparing most of our students to at least take a role at first in a health club or in a sport, in a gym environment, you know, what we are looking at is there's an element of teamwork that if you have it, makes your experience feel a lot better, and if you don't have it, you know, I feel bad. There's great team cultures and there's teams that don't have such great cultures. So let's look at that a little bit. Can you share an experience of a teammate, either sport or work, who you think made you perform better? What was it like to have someone support you or push you or set a good example? So what did they do to help you perform better?
I would say I would go the varsity athletics example and just talk about the catcher relationship I had with me as the pitcher and my catcher that I had for a couple of years. You know, there's all kinds of different individual examples, but generally speaking, just the ability for him to come out and give me physical and mental cues and different things, like, hey, you're stepping too early, leaving the fastball arm side a little bit too much, you know, let's just narrow it back down. So he was verbally supportive in game even, and also, you know, at the end of the game or whatever, and then, you know, mental prep cues, just saying, hey, you're the best guy out here, you got this, man, let's get it fired up, you can do it. I think that sort of concept can translate really well to training too. You know, you want to be supportive to your teammates. You don't want to just show up and critique or criticize your teammates on the personal training team. They can say like, hey, like, honestly, that looked like an awesome session. This one thing I might add or spice up to this superset is just a hip stretch or whatever, just to, just things like that as a way to just create positivity, create a critique or some sort of thing where you can support them to be better, and then kind of following that up with like high five, pound it, good job, dude, like whoever, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
that forward is what I kind of remember most from your, if I was answering your question.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think a lot of times trainers think about their work being primarily with their clients. But one of the things that I talk about when we sort of talk about the business of PT section, I always say, like, when you first start working at a gym and nobody knows you, that's your number one job, is to start to become known. But don't underestimate the importance of like the front desk staff knowing you, the membership team knowing you, your own teammates knowing you, right? So as much as you want to go in and build your business and start to make, you want to do your job and you want to get paid and you want to build your client book and whatever, when you engage on building your business on your own, you have to do all the work. Whereas if you can be professional and show up and do your job, but also parallel that with get to know my team, get to know the culture, become part of sort of the bigger picture.
You'll just get busy.
I think what you find is people end up connecting you with people. So the front desk might be like, oh, hey, I know this member that comes in all the time and they've got some shoulder pain, and hey, Keegan's a former varsity baseball player and knows a ton about shoulder exercises. Maybe, hey, John, maybe you should go say hi to Keegan. Maybe, you know what I mean? So we can't underestimate the value of our teammates in doing the work that we want to do, which is essentially, work with clients.
Totally true. Making an impact.
Know when something you need help with is something that's already a skill that one of your teammates owns. And so there's some reciprocity. If you need help from someone, they're way more likely to take the time to help you if you've done the same thing for them, right? So actually prioritizing a great team environment, I think makes you better. It makes you like your job more, and it makes you feel more comfortable, more confident, more excited to go into work every day.
Yeah. When people start to feel like individuals, or they're, anything along those lines, it just doesn't work as well. I just think, like you said, it takes a certain amount of people skills, but I think it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to go and introduce yourself and build networking and talk about your skills, experiences. That way you can just be all on the same page, working toward one goal.
Yeah. So then on the flip side, what's something that you've identified as like, man, that's not the way to be a great teammate, or that's not the way to get the best result. That's not the win-win scenario. What's an example of, maybe you've seen a younger trainer join the team and then they make one of these sort of teamwork mistakes. Can you think of an example that would be something like that?
Not necessarily a specific example of that. I think that doing things like being late for meetings is not good. I think there's just examples of people who sometimes rub stuff in your face when it's not warranted. That's maybe their version of competing, but that's not how to uplift or build morale. I can't think of. Are you thinking of anything specific, or?
Sure. I'll give you a few examples, and maybe you can tell me if it makes sense to you. I'm thinking specifically about when you and I were leaders on the team that we were running. Yep. When you're a trainer, your job is to be motivated, enthusiastic, inspiring, hold high standards, lead by example. Like when we talk about being a trainer, you're walking the talk, you're leading by example, you're a role model for your clients, right? So it's not like, hey, you got to eat more vegetables and watch your caloric intake, and then we're Instagram storying like NFL Sunday snacks and beers and whatever, right? Like there's a certain element of accountability in the sense that, hey, I'm in this with you, I've done this works, trust me, let me help you, right? So like that makes sense between like the trainer client relationship, but your job is to give your clients what they need. So then who gives you what you need? Like you had the catcher who would come out and say to you like, hey man, you're the best one out here, you got this. If you're a trainer, who's doing that for you? it's your job to do it for your client, and training is a job where we give a ton. So if you work on your own, or if you work on a team and you're constantly putting energy out, who's giving you energy back? I would suggest, at least for me, it's one of the reasons why I've always enjoyed being on a team, is I give my clients a ton. And it's not that I don't feel rewarded based on the work that I'm doing, but I give a ton, right?
Yep.
And because I like to work a lot and I'm competitive and I want to win, I end up spending an awful lot of hours doing that. So this sort of idea of like work-life balance, that everybody talks about, it's kind of a hot button issue in our industry. But what I always look at is like, I don't know, I've just seen that the people who say that the most, oh, I need work-life balance, they're the ones that they're not like the best teammates. They don't join team workouts. They don't work out together. They don't show up for like the optional, hey guys, let's meet an hour early and have breakfast together. Or, they don't, like, let's say we're going to wear, football jerseys on this day because it's a special event in the club. They're the ones that like don't wear one. They just show up in their uniform. You know what I mean? So like, I think what I'm wondering about is like, when you see a new trainer join the team, can you tell the difference between someone who invests in being a teammate and like drinks the Kool-Aid a little bit versus someone who maybe they're insecure, maybe they're not super extroverted, whatever the reason is, but they kind of hold back? Can you see that make a difference to whether or not they're successful building their business, whether or not they stick around because they enjoy their job? Like, I think I was thinking about sort of that example.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Usually the people that, whether they have veteranitis or they're coming in with a not open-minded sort of attitude, they're not making themselves available for things like doing non-session hours or client prospecting. I think those are the ones that are getting in their own way the most, I would say. And it is true.
So the layer of sort of just enthusiasm goes a long way towards building connections. So if I'm trying to get to know members and I'm trying to build value and show what I have to offer, doing that from a happy, enthusiastic place, I'm sorry, makes a whole lot more impact than like, oh, I'm really smart and I know a lot.
Totally.
So you should just trust me.
Even if you have to, not that you're trying to fake it till you make it, but you got to get out there and get yourself, uncomfortable a little bit here and there. So,
yeah. Oh, and I think you can totally fake it till you make it. You can fake extroversion and enthusiasm, but if you have a team around you where that's kind of the norm, it makes it a whole lot easier to mimic and do what everybody else is doing than be the only one out there trying to do it. So I think that's kind of what I've noticed as a team athlete is like, you've got to be willing to be on the team, not just show up because it's a beautiful gym and I want to train my
care
clients.
Yourself and get your paycheck and get out of there. Yeah, I think it comes down to leadership. That's another good topic too, is leadership. I don't know if you want to talk about that today or not. But.
Oh man, we could have such a great time talking about that. Let's just finish up looking at sort of this concept. Again, there's lots of places where you can go be a trainer. So I'm not trying to bash independent trainers. I'm not trying to bash small businesses and own your own thing. I think there's an additional challenge to being good at that in the sense that you're the one generating everything, but it does work really well for some people. So I'm not saying I only think people who are good team members are the only people that have value, but for sure, if you're going to work on a team environment, if you want to learn from a team or take advantage of that opportunity, what would you say are some of the qualities that make a great team player? So if you were looking at adding someone to your team, whether that was sport or work or whatever, what do you think helps them succeed and add to the collective good versus what do you think would maybe be tough to navigate around having them integrate? What would you say are good team member qualities?
Confidence, kindness, being available, being open, being early, as I said, somebody who is a little bit selfless, somebody who's always willing to do the team functions and events and hang out, as you said, pre-post MSDs or days that require a little bit more energy. Somebody who is competitive, actually. I think a competitive teammate is healthy for everybody. That's what I would say.
Sweet. Love it. Yeah, so I mean, let's open up the leadership topic a little bit, because I think that certainly goes a long way. You know, we say no bad teams, only bad leaders. And you know, especially having been an athlete, I'm sure you've had coaches that you thought did a great job, and I'm sure you've had a chance to experience coaches that maybe didn't do things the way you wanted to. But there's kind of a difference between a coach that pushes you, challenges you, you know, like kind of makes you uncomfortable, but ultimately gives you the opportunity to be more successful, versus someone really dogmatic, or someone who
Screams
maybe
from
doesn't
the
have the skill of bringing people together. So let's talk a
sidelines.
little bit about you as a leader. You went from, you know, I sort of see a picture as being a natural leader. You're like, you're basically the play until the batter hits the ball. So like it's all on you for a fair bit. Um, and then as you joined the team and sort of established yourself as a quiet leader, and then stepped into that role, what are some of the things that sort of challenged you, or what are some of the things you had to learn more about in order to be a good leader?
The things that I was good at initially were the things like the silent leadership, the things like connecting with people, earning respect, having fun, energy, and all that kind of stuff. The things that challenged me though were the tough conversations, the things where I had to step it up and be a leader, and like, hey, I noticed that you're 10 minutes late to your hour, or you've made your client wait X number of times. Just we need to be better at that. The things that personally challenged me were those tougher conversations, I would say. And I think, that's a huge part of being a good leader is the ability to maintain composure, but also, maintain composure and be excited and happy and fun and get that energy going, but also have those harder conversations.
So when you start off, let's look at, joining a team at a gym. You start off, you're a trainer, you're sort of on the ground floor. Your job is to connect with your team, become known, right? Sort of establish who you are, show people who you are, and sort of like, you've got to put in some work on the foundation layer. And like you said, you were always really good at connecting with people, building a sense of camaraderie. You were fun. People really liked you, and that's not always that's not always a natural skill for everybody. But it can be tough to transition from "but we're friends" to "but now I'm in a leadership position." And I think the instinct is, I want to maintain and I want to prioritize the friendship.
Absolutely.
You don't want to lose that. But
Yeah.
again, part of what a coach's job is, part of what a leader does, is set structure, holds you accountable, drives you, right? Like I had to make a similar transition in leadership to, I want you to perform at your best. I want what's best for you. And if you don't do the work, if you don't protect your reputation, if you don't deliver above and beyond service, then you're not performing at your best. So often becoming a really great athlete, achieving really incredible results in the gym, building your business and growing your career, you have to do the hard work. And sometimes what it takes is someone that pushes you to do that. And so whether it's like, hey man, you've been late for a couple of sessions, I know you're better than that and I need you to be here on time, we lose the feeling of like, oh, but I'm your friend. If I was your friend, I would be like, nah man, it's all, it's okay, it's cool, right? But then to transition to, hey, the expectation on this team and being a great team member on this team means early's on time and on time is late. I need you to be a great team member. That can be really tough. It feels really scary to say that, because you sort of worry that you might be losing a friend by being a leader, right?
One of the best coaches I ever had was my first 2 years in college, and that's what you're talking about there. Just, it brings me back just to the word respect, and that's no matter what, if the conversation was positive for success, or if he was MFing you a little bit on the sidelines or whatever. I think no matter what the case, there's just a way that good leaders earn respect from their employees or teammates or players, things like that. And I think it contributes to overall success, whether it's monthly, game to game, day to day, anything like that. I think if you respect your leader wholeheartedly, or you're willing to put in the extra work, you're willing to go above and beyond, and you just become a better version of yourself as a teammate. So
Yeah, awesome. So let's sort of wrap it up by just sort of touching base on, if we call this a little bit of a development themed conversation, what are some of the best courses that you took to increase your skill set as a trainer? What would you recommend as being really beneficial from the continuing education perspective?
Let's go with actually. Well, I love Bulgarian bag, to be honest. That it's a unique tool. It's not very common, I guess you would say, but it's really enjoyable to teach people about it. I think it's super healthy to move in that loaded movement sort of plane. And TRX is amazing too. I know you're a big TRX fan, but I would say those two stick out for me as ones that allowed me to branch off to my client base and sort of provide that additional value and things.
Yeah, awesome. Essentially bringing a certain level of athleticism to clients that maybe haven't had that same experience with those tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about books or podcasts or, anyone that you follow from like a motivation perspective or a leadership perspective?
Ed Milet has some cool things on Instagram. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's all about this. He's a really inspirational, motivational speaker kind of guy about perspective, about life, about success. He's got this whole max out theme. He's got some interesting stuff to look at. And then something to do with books is this, I would say, is a good little, I'm only a few pages in, but it's already good. It's called Live Longer, Happier, and Healthier with the Groundbreaking Science of Kindness. So it's a solid book that kind of proves that, if you're kind, it can actually clear things up with the body and create health physiologically. So just by outwardly being a certain way, lower blood pressure, it's really an interesting read. So that's kind of something I'd recommend.
I like it. That kind of speaks to just the evolution that we're seeing in the fitness industry. The fact that this more integrative, holistic, kind of wholehearted coaching is sort of making its way into being legitimate, I think is super cool because, I think we can all look at our own lives and point to someone who's like, wow, they're so kind. And they are a happier, feel good kind of person, right? So yeah, I dig it. Cool. I'll have to check that out.
AKA your mom.
Oh, so much. I could do a whole podcast just talking about my mom for sure.
We're on as a guest and
there we go. Awesome.
Yeah.
So then let's wrap it up. I want you to sort of, if you have anything you can think of, if you were talking directly to a student, someone that's in the process of getting certified, someone that's wanting to, head out into building a fitness career, or maybe even someone who's just gotten started, what advice would you give from a mentorship perspective? Let's say, you're the AFM and you want to help someone get started and succeed. What would you tell them? What would your advice be for them to be able to be successful?
So let's say someone's getting hired on at a bigger gym, corporate gym, onto a team. I would say that a huge thing that contributed to my success was being available. I think trainers that get into the mindset of if they're so narrow-mindedly focused on what they want their schedule to look like I want to have between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. off and only work between 4 and 8. I think that already sets you up for not success. It kind of sets you up for failure. I think a clean slate and just being available is huge, and of course being patient. I think if you have good leaders, like I had a good leader in you when I was first new. I think that just having less things on your plate is important to start it out. Be eager to learn. I can think of a number of trainers in my head that have came through the system back where I worked there, and they had success due to just being eager, being available, being ready to learn, and taking direction really well, and not, as I said, having that sort of narrow-minded approach on what they assume their schedule needs to look like. Because to me, a schedule like that is somebody who's a veteran, who's really established, who can kind of get the 5 in a row stacked out sort of thing happen. So you may have to sacrifice lots of your time early on. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. I like it. And so as we sort of sit in this, pause of a moment where we're, at home a little more and trying to figure out some, online strategies and sort of, I think this is just like a fill the gap kind of moment. I think what I would sort of look at in this period of time too is we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what we could be doing during this time is being kind, leading with human connection, right? Just making sure that we're, if you had clients or something like that, making sure that you're connecting with them. Hey, how are you doing? What do you need?
Exactly.
Is there anything I
Totally.
can
Reach
help you
out.
with? And then at the same time, if you've got some few things, I think as trainers, especially the busier we get, there's always a few things that, oh man, I wish I could do this. I wish I could learn that. I wish I could start this
Yeah.
project. I wish I could clean up my client file folders, whatever it is, um, using this as an opportunity to connect and maintain relationships, improve on the relationships we have, not necessarily go out and create a bunch of new ones, right? But take care of the people that have always taken care of you. Be a great teammate, even though we can't be, maybe together in big groups, but be a great teammate. Knock off a few projects that you've always wanted to do. But stay ready, right? Stay sharp, stay,
Get creative a little bit too, do something different. Read a book, go for a run. For me, I've been running around the lake trying to beat my time every day. So that's been a little challenge.
nice.
That I recommend that for people who are kind of stuck. A lot of
Yeah.
people are probably in this time. So
Yeah, for sure. But ultimately, in relation to our theme, like maintain your connection to the team. So the team of clients that you have, maintain connection. The team of coworkers that you have, maintain connection. And what I would say is you don't have to have the answers right now. You just have to be willing to show up and hold space and have conversations. So sometimes when we're trainers, what we think we have to do is know all the answers. And hey, this is the scientific thing that's going on right now. And yet, where we find our best relationships, where we find our best connection, where we find that reciprocity, I think more comes down to being a human first and leading from the perspective of like, I'm going to be a good teammate first.
absolutely.
I
Teammate
dig
friend.
it. Well, Keegan, thank you so much for joining me. We've had an awesome relationship as colleagues, and you're doing fantastic work with my mom. I'm really happy with not just her physical performance, but just the she feels like you really care about her, and she brings you food, and you show up to a play every now and again. And that for me is just a great example of
Win-win.
the win-win, the potential reward of being more for your clients than just, reps and cents counter.
Yeah.
And so I've been really proud to see, where you started from and how you've grown. And I think you've got a lot more to offer, and it's going to be interesting on the other side of this little pause to see sort of what's available in terms of new opportunities and ways to embrace the challenges that'll come on the other side. So a ton of respect for you professionally. I care about you a lot as someone that I have seen grow, and I'm impressed and grateful for the work that you do with your clients, especially the ones that are family members of mine. So thank you to you, sir. You look sharp, you look good. Glad to hear you're doing well, and
Thank you very
hopefully,
much for having me on.
absolutely. Hopefully, we gave some gems away that will allow people to do a little bit of learning. So thank you so much. Awesome to have you. Awesome to see you. Take care, and let's chat again
Thanks
soon.
for the book. Talk to you soon.